Hi folks, here we go again. What I'm going to do this week, which is what I sometimes do, I'm going to treat this as if I were a viewer. So I have not viewed what you have done. I can see it's a 17-minute bulletin. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I'm going to react as if I have seen it first time, which is exactly what I have done. So I'm a viewer, I've got no chance to go back, to look at it and criticize from a position of hindsight. What I'm doing is looking at it as if I'm sitting at home and viewing it for the very first time and judging it accordingly on whether this is a program that I'm going to enjoy or what looks right or wrong, just as I see it first time. Now, I think it's quite a good exercise because some of the time we get very involved and we go back and look at things, and that's a little bit unfair. But it helps when we do it. But it also helps this way. So I'm going to look at it now and we're going to go through it bit by bit, but certainly as a viewer. So one-time viewing. Here we go then.
Welcome to Winchester News Online. I'm Adriana Jadewell, and here are the latest headlines.
Okay, first thing I've just noticed, I think we've got a bleed through from the gallery into the recording. Now, whether this is an open set of headphones that can be heard on the presenter mic, I'm not sure, or whether there is something technically wrong with the setup of the studio. So I've already heard the director go cue headlines. So let's hope that disappears, but otherwise that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
He's angry over plans to close specialist dementia care homes. From Theresa May's withdrawal proposal to what might happen next, we have the latest on Brexit. And the Christmas market is back to bring holiday spirit to Winchester.
Okay. So we got the holiday market as well. Okay, so we've still got this issue with the director. Hopefully it will disappear. Three strong headlines. I hope we can actually add some light to the Brexit debate. It is very difficult to do that. And I noticed that we've still got the Christmas market, and I think we led with the Christmas market last week. So it has to be ostensibly different to what happened last week for it to be of any use in this bulletin. Okay, here we go.
So the Hamptons Labour and Council are having to make cuts in all areas, with dementia homes possibly suffering, but they won't go without a fight. Emily Wilson reports.
Two council-run care homes for people with dementia may close to save Southampton City Council money.
Really clear so far. The link is good, and what you've just done in your opening sentence is explain exactly the threats to these two dementia homes. Well done, Emily.
But families are concerned their relatives will be left without a home.
Our worry is if we leave it until February and they do say yes, we're closing, is there going to be anywhere left for my mum to go if everybody else starts taking their families out of the homes? And also, we didn't want her to go to a private home in the first place because we think council-run homes are better. And it's just the thought of where is she going to end up, because I don't drive and I have got to get to visit her. She could end up anywhere, apparently, not even in Southampton, we've been told.
Really well done so far. It's really good human interest. What is also good is clearly we've got a lack of pictures. Access to homes is very difficult. You have to go through all sorts of due processes, and the care home will probably not allow it because you've got very vulnerable people in there who maybe are not mentally stable enough to be able to give their own permission to be filmed. So therefore you've got to go to a third party, whoever the power of attorney might be, making decisions over those sort of matters. So it's fraught with difficulties and would take a long time to set up. So it's good that you have got pictures of this woman's mum. And it just adds so much to it because, bearing in mind, part of this story is a GV of Southampton City Council.
Part of Southampton City Council's proposed budget, which looks to save more than £15 million by 2021.
This year,
Bit dull, that shot. I'd just like another one in there, Emily. I think you could have added one more shot or a different size of the same shot.
was made that this budget wouldn't be protected more than others as it has done in the past. I feel it's really sad that we've got a Conservative government that doesn't feel it needs to pass taxes back to local people to pay.
If this woman is a councillor and a Labour councillor, which it sounds like, can you Aston her down here, councillor, sorry, I forgot her name, Jane Smith, and then put Labour and the ward that she is, or put whatever committee that she is on. Nicely framed, though. This is good.
For things like adult social care, but that's the situation that we find ourselves in.
Glenlee in Bitton and Holcroft House in Thornhill currently provide care for up to 75 vulnerable elderly people who suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's. The care homes employ around 70 members of staff. Trade unions Unite and Unison are working closely with employees to try and prevent the potential closures.
We're really concerned that the numbers don't add up and that the research put in by the council was not in the amount of depth that we've managed to go into, and they have not considered a lot of the factors. It almost feels like a balance sheet has been produced saying, if we keep them open, we pay this much money. If we close them, we save this much money. The problem that you get when you move people is that they regress quite catastrophically. Some will never recover from that regression that they get from being moved into different care homes, and in some cases it basically speeds up people dying.
A final decision will be made in February. I'm Emily Wilson, reporting for Winchester News Online.
Emily, some really good interviews. I think we need to balance it. If that woman is a Labour councillor and she's attacking the Tories or the Tory government or whatever it might be, we need a response from the Tories. Apart from that, you're very sophisticated as a reporter and you have got some really good technique about your package building. And that is really, really good. This is a very strong piece to camera. You've got lots of voices in there. And actually, it's really, really good. It's very mature reporting. And I think that's very good indeed. But one thing again, Emily, please just say Emily Wilson, Winchester News Online, not I'm whatever. Just as we have the standard Astons, we need to have the standard SOQs as well. So I am always Angus Scott, Winchester News Online, Southampton. That's how it has to be. So please adhere to that in future. But a really good package. Well done.
Laurel House has been the home for many healthcare professionals over the years, and it will soon become Winchester Hospice, the new home for the end-of-life care team. Sam Delamore reports.
Laurel House is located on the grounds of Royal Hampshire County Hospital and is being renovated and will become Winchester Hospice. The hospice will be the central location for the palliative care team, who will all be providing specialist care for as many as 10 patients. The really essential...
It's a really nice start. Look, we've got some dreadfully boring pictures of exteriors, but you've explained it again very, very nicely. Although I think we've got trouble with wind here. Just as well we're at hospital. No, we've got real trouble on these mics. You've got to get in close. So tighten your shot and get your microphone in here if you're going to have wind.
The purpose of the hospice and having the hospice in Winchester is to enable patients and their families to be cared for locally where possible, which is what we're trying to achieve for everybody. It's what people want.
That's a pretty ugly shot. Not sure what that tells us.
It also enables people to have the quality of life, being able to get to the hospice up the road for their treatment. It could be to have a blood transfusion, it could be to have some social care, or it could be for a short submission, possibly.
Again, that's not a great cutaway because I'm not quite sure what it's... I mean, it shows it's a pretty shitty building, but it doesn't actually work as a cutaway and tell part of the story.
To have symptoms managed. And for some people, they may decide that actually towards the end of their life they want to be at home, and the hospice would provide services that then would care for them at home. It could be a hospice at home team, it could be a home care team. And for others, they may decide actually hospice is where they want to be, They may not have local family.
All I would say now is this lady, as good as she is, she's gone on for a very, very long time. This is a really long grab.
And the hospice, the 10 beds in the hospice, would enable those people to have really good, high quality, specialist palliative and end-of-life care. The hospice care sector helps support more than 200,000 people with life-limiting and terminal illnesses. With the help of donations and fundraising opportunities, Borough House will open their doors in late 2019. Sam Delamore, Winchester News Online.
Yeah, I think Sam, I think you've explained the thing very well. It's a nice piece. It's a good local story. I think the issue is you're very, very short of pictures. I wonder if there were more pictures that you had there, the ones that you used at the end of the computer generation of what it might be like. So I think you've got to be careful. When you come to a story like this, you have to think outside the box of how you're going to shoot it, because clearly that is full of GVs. And look at the last story about the dementia care. We got human interest in there. And I wonder whether we could have linked the two, not necessarily in what you've done there, but certainly in the link. But also you've got to, yes, you do have to be creative about how this story is going to work. And if there is another hospice or other people that can be spoken to about this, because otherwise we do end up getting just one lady for a very long time. You know, she must have been at least 40, I suppose, 45 seconds. But otherwise, you know, you've tried to structure it and you have tried to make sense of it and give a sense to us, and you do explain that. And it's a very welcome cause that it'll be put to use for. But I just, as you can say, there are real limitations to this televisually because there's not enough to it.
Now, the EU has given a seal of approval on the Brexit withdrawal agreement, meaning the Prime Minister can now focus on persuading Parliament to support it, which must happen before it can get approved. Here is our political correspondent, Matilda Appleyard.
Okay, right, the link is fine. Where is Matilda going to be? Okay.
On the 23rd of June.
Right, okay. So this smacks of lack of rehearsal and people not quite sure what is going on. So this is why these bits have to be rehearsed through the studio before it actually goes to air.
16. One question was put to the UK. Should we stay in the European Union? With a 4% lead on the vote, we chose...
Where are you looking? Why did you look away? As soon as you do that, my interest stops being on what you're saying, and I'm thinking, I wonder what she was looking at.
Eve. Over the past 20 months, the debate has focused around the divorce process, and over the last week alone, Theresa May released her withdrawal proposal. It covered key points such as a divorce settlement of nearly £40 billion, the protection of EU citizens in the UK, and UK citizens.
Again, try and hold your focus on the lens.
Abroad, and the unusual circumstances surrounding Gibraltar. Some people believe that Brexit will give back control to British borders, protect jobs, and allow more money to be spent on the NHS. People on both sides are arguing that the deal fails to deliver on what was voted for in 2016, or what they were promised during the campaign.
Okay, we've got wind problems again. What you're saying is very good. You've summarised the issue well.
Brexiteers are arguing that instead of taking back control, the UK is giving the European Union too much say on key areas, and stopping the UK from striking deals with other countries. Back to you in the studio.
Excuse me. Look, the way you deliver to camera, apart from the couple of looks away, is really, really strong. You have a lot of credibility in front of camera and a lot of presence to be able to deliver in such a way that you have. All I would suggest is, what is the new angle on this? This is more or less, right, here's a summary of what Brexit is. And if we're going to do that, then I think we've got to do it in a slightly more funky way, that we need to use graphics and we need to use pictures and ways of explaining it to people. As an exercise for you, Matilda, to be able to stand in front of the camera, then it's very worthy and you've proved that you can do it. And that is not an easy task. But as a construct to be putting on television, it's not actually telling us anything new, and it's not visually very strong, and we can find other ways of explaining what you have done. And I'm not sure there is a new line to it. You're just giving us a potted history of where we are. Is there a local angle? Do we need to do something like this every week so students understand what is happening with Brexit? Well, maybe that is something that we do. And maybe this was a debate that you had leading up to this story. I just find that it sits here in isolation, and I'm not quite sure it does what we want it to do. But certain aspects of it are very strong. Oh, black hole, again, no rehearsal. You left it nice and long, that's fine. She stayed there. Need to have some outwards, know what are outwards, and then come back into the studio.
In the studio with me, I've got Andrea, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what we can expect. So, Andrea, I understand this may not be the easiest thing to talk about or the easiest vote to tell us an outcome for, but can you give us a little idea of what we might expect?
Right, so as mentioned, the 27 EU leaders have now signed up on the agreement, and the next stop now is the Parliament on the 11th of December.
Okay, so what I'm thinking now about the previous bit is just a summary of what was going on. That's what it was there for. If that's what it was there for, to put people in the picture, I think you need to say, right, in your link you go, in a moment, we'll hear from our correspondent who will say what's going to happen next. But first, let's hear from our other correspondent who's going to give us a quick recap of where we are now. That's a better device to get this done.
As of right now, it looks like a no, as Theresa May's original proposal doesn't have a lot of support from MPs from all sides of the government, honestly. If it is a no, she has 21 days to suggest something else. This might be an entirely new agreement. It could also be a new referendum where the people can vote on whether or not they are happy with the agreement, instead of doing an entirely new revote of the original vote. She also, in some scenarios, has a chance of rerunning it through Parliament a second time. It could also be a no-deal scenario. The UK is by law leaving on the 29th of March 2019 at 11 p.m. This can be extended, but only if all 28 leaders in the EU approve of this. If we have no solution by then, we will leave with no deal.
Well done, the director, for just doing a cutaway. And by the way, this is terrific. To remember all this and to explain it so clearly is really, really good.
And that means that we will leave with no transition period and basically have a lot of our laws changed overnight.
Sounds like a lot could come out of this vote, can't it? Thank you, Andrea. Now,
be very careful with your back ref here, because if you say various aspects, if you say certain things, aspects of Brexit become oversimplified, and I think you just need to say something along the lines of, well, we'll be back to you with, develop. Thank you for those updates. We'll of course be talking to you in the future with how this develops. That sort of thing. I think you slightly muddled what you're saying, and it makes you sound a little bit simplistic. So be very careful with that. But as a studio debrief, very, very strong indeed, and well done for going through everything and explaining everything so clearly.
State is the worst performing 100 out of 391 reducing vehicle emissions. Here's Adam Fountain with more.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that because I was talking about the other stuff. So I'm just going to go back because that's my fault, not yours.
It's changed overnight.
Sounds like a lot could come out of this vote, can't it? Thank you, Andrea. Now, Winchester is the worst performing 100 out of 391 reducing vehicle emissions.
Well, I know why I didn't understand it, because it actually doesn't make sense, or what you said doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm confused.
Here's Adam Fountain with more.
Okay, but hopefully Adam will explain it.
Winchester is among the worst performing districts in the country for reducing carbon emissions. A report from the local environmental group Winchester Action on Climate Change.
When you mix, don't go through black to mix. just make sure, we very rarely use a mix and something like that. Just use a hard cut.
Shows that since 2013, vehicle emissions have risen, making up 43% of...
Yeah, don't use that as a technique to go to black and mix through. Just cut. Very simple. And the previous shot was just a little bit long.
Winchester's emissions. The report states that the Winchester district lies in the worst performing 100 out of 391. WINEC Executive Director Tom Brennan.
Yeah, that there should be a graphic on the previous one, and I'm sure this is probably one of the first graphics that you've done, but as you can see, it looks just really busy and messy. There's just too much going on, and you need to just simplify it, that's all.
Stated that urgent action is required to reduce emissions, stating, "This will require all of us across community, business and public sectors to play our part to help limit the damaging impacts of climate change."
Yeah, then it's a bit of a mess because you've just done a soft focus, and then it's probably better to do a soft focus a pull focus at the beginning of that graphic, then freeze the back, and then carry on with the graphic itself.
So, so carbon emissions obviously important for...
Okay, just look at the framing of this one, Adam. Remember the rule of thirds. If you haven't talked about the rule of thirds, go back to one of my previous critiques of Winol, and I even sent the link that you should go to. This is very much in the center of the camera. You need him probably here. I can't see which way if he's talking this side of the camera, then actually you want him here. Remember, split it into thirds and have your subject there.
We change and we need to reduce them, and I believe the council has not done enough. This for Winchester district that about 50 premature deaths happen every year because of emissions.
Adam found him, Winchester News.
Oh, okay, so look, it's just got a bit messy. Adam, that might have been one of your first pieces. I don't know why it came out so early. It looked like you've reused a shot of the bus, so we don't want to use that. We haven't got any shots of sort of emissions, like close-ups of exhaust pipes with lots of rubbish coming out of it. That's what the story is about. You know, you don't have to identify somebody's car because you don't have to use, you shouldn't use the license plate, but you can go in tight on the exhaust pipe and see a load of rubbish coming out of it and carbon emissions. And is it just about cars? So all in all, it's a bit of a puff for the Green Party. You're having a moan about something. I'm not quite sure what this survey was that Winchester came so badly in. So it's all a little bit messy. You need to think about structuring your story so that you tell a story and we get both sides of the story and the reasons why. I know WINAC was saying something, but then you need to define who WINAC are. So a bit of work to be done there.
Officials at the University of Winchester are concerned about the huge increase in the use of paper following the introduction of free printing. Our reporter Ian Sheridan takes a look at the paper jam.
The University of Winchester partnered with the student union to offer all students free printing from the beginning of this academic year. However, they now think this scheme is being taken advantage of. They say printing has increased by 600%.
The number one reason we've seen this happening is because...
That's a good start. It's a nice range of shots. Well done, Ian.
So some students have been...
Although the sound on this looks a bit toppy, a bit peaky. So that's why you've got a bit of distortion.
For non-academic purposes, and in some cases thousands of sheets. We as a student union fully agree.
That's really peaky, yeah. Check your levels. But I quite like the fact that you've suddenly gone in tight from a wide shot. Don't have that very often, and it works very nicely as an edit.
That students deserve to have free academic printing and not to face the potential financial barriers. But again, we say that printing should be related to academic purposes. And you would pay your tuition fees for academic purposes.
I think I feel a bit cheated if I had to pay for printing in second year, only because for the money we pay, I feel like it's one of the utilities that uni should provide for the students.
I didn't use the printing as much last year because it wasn't free and it cost quite a bit. So, because my readings are quite long as well, the price, I had to keep topping up my cards.
You know, we monitor print use, and it's at a really good level now. And suddenly, it's grown substantially, and that's not sustainable. So we love the idea of free printing. We think that's really good.
Ian, what I would like when you've got a shot of the printer, is got to be something being printed and coming out. It's got to be. We need movement, just as we've got cars going down a road. Even if you've got a static shot, we need something being printed.
But within a reasonable limit for what's required.
We are told that printing will remain monitored, and if there is a reduction, printing will remain free. But if there isn't a reduction, other options will have to be considered to reduce the environmental impact. So print wisely. Ian Sheridan, Winchester News Online.
See, that's a really good piece to camera in, because you've got movement, you've thought about it, you're relaxed, you're turning to the camera. You know, that's got some real credibility about it. And from that point of view, you know, that's really good. And you've interviewed some decent people. It's a very real story on campus. I think it could have, even though it's gone up 600%, I think if it would be nice to have a little bit of some financial implications on that. How much does it cost? What, you know, just a little bit more flesh on the bone, so we can really understand this story and the difficulty that the university faces. How much is it likely to cost them? What are they having to soak up? What are people on average printing out per person? Whatever it might be, let's get some flesh on the bones. Good story, really good university story though, because it's clearly an issue for the university and for students. So therefore, it becomes a good story.
Children from Stanmore Primary School got stuck into creating a pop-up art exhibition for a special viewing. Lexi Dutton reports.
It's a bit short, that link.
We've taken over the museum!
I love that start.
Professional kids at Museums Takeover Day and children from Stanmore Primary School have created their own pop-up art show in the Winchester College Treasury.
The children have spent the day creating and curating their very own pop-up art show. So they've come to the museum to learn about the collections, to learn about the museum, and then to pick their favourite object and recreate it.
The Year 6 pupils had a fun-filled day creating their own exhibition for the public to see.
I'm Posey and this is my picture that I drew from the museum, and I used pastels and tissue paper. So this picture was made by me. It's from the Qing Dynasty, from the Kanji period, 1662 to 1722.
They became mini tour guides and shared their discoveries with their parents in a special viewing.
I thought that everything is very colourful and it attracts you, and it's made me really want to know more about everything that's here. And I think it's really surprising that they can make things like this back then, but we can't make them now.
The children have had loads of fun taking over the museum and becoming artists for the day, showing their parents and other guests all the hard work they've put in for this special event. Lexi Dutton, Winchester News Online.
Lexi, I didn't say anything during the whole of that because I was actually really interested and I was watching and I wanted to know what was going on and what it was about, and the kids were so engaging and so was the curator, and I think I understand what they were doing, that they were replicating those things from however many hundreds of years ago. Look, I think it's a really interesting story and the way you've started it is great, and there are lots of different elements, and if everyone can look at that and see how much things get lifted off the page, come out of your television screen, because you've got bright people, you've got good interviewees, you just use a certain amount of them that is right, not too much, not too little. It's engaging, it's colourful. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just a really nice piece, and again, I say that the way you started it, absolutely spot on. Well done, Lexi.
If you're looking for inspiration for the big day, the Winchester Bridal Exhibition and Fashion.
Okay, I got Vision mixing problems?
Took place at the Norton Hotel to help brides-to-be create their perfect wedding.
Okay, right, this...
An established...
Okay, so, excuse me. This is an OOV, an LVO, what we call it, sort of live voiceover. An OOV is out of vision, whichever terminology you want to use. You've got loads and loads of really good pictures there. Some of them are cut a little bit too quickly, but you've got a great range of shots. So whoever shot it, well done. You've got really good access. Write some more words. If you only want 20 seconds, this is where it's really important on your running order to understand when you finish speaking, that is more or less the end of the story, unless there is something, an important shot that you need to see. Well, you didn't have that. So what you did in the gallery was you heard someone counting down the figure until the end of that little bit of VT. So you're going 6, 5, but actually there are no more words to say. So you don't need to get to 0 or 1 before you cut out and go to the studio. You come out at 6 because all the words have been said and there are no specific pictures to go to. So either write it a little bit longer or make sure you, whoever was directing, come out at the end of the words. And don't worry about there being some unused pictures that you never see the light of day. That's what it's about. If you're sharp, you cut out straight away.
Sing League has been touring the country with the tournaments this year and has just held its final in Winchester. Marlon Ailing Allen reports.
It's the Wessex League.
Marlon, the opening bit's really nice. I think it could have done with, I know you've left the opening bit, the sound is really good. I would have just used that second shot, not the first one, because I think the second shot is really good. Strong, the sound is good, and then you get that sort of conclusion to it.
Finals, an historical martial arts fencing competition being held here in Winchester for the second time.
Don't worry about turning around and pointing to something. Just say here in Winchester, all right? If you're standing there, we know you're not in Gloucestershire, you're in Winchester.
And historical European martial arts is essentially sword fighting being taught as it was taught up to 400 years ago.
My only thought is why is she being interviewed outside? It'd be great to have her interviewed inside with all the fighting going on behind her.
So we take the lessons from the masters of the medieval.
Well done for listening to what I've said previously, and I'm sure Brian and Joe have done. Look, you need the sound from this cutaway underneath the interview. Otherwise, if it's muted, it look very strange. So absolutely spot on with this cutaway.
Period, and we fight exactly as much as we can how they used to fence, and it's such great fun. It's a brilliant way to keep fit. It's very open to all ages and levels of fitness. Many people I know who do this, myself included, never did any sport before.
But where could the sport go in the future?
I think it will continue to grow. There's a lot of sort of disparate tournaments sort of about the place at the moment. There's a Wessex League in the south, there's Kings of the North in the north. I think over time you could get to the point where you've got more kind of central United Kingdom tournament and things like that. That'd be quite interesting to get to.
I think we can go, and we're probably going to go in the direction of having sponsorships, things like that, and just like this way other martial arts have gone, where it's more available to more people because we've got the means to spread the word.
Keep an eye on historical fencing because it's only going to get more popular. Marlon Ailing Allen, Winchester News Online.
Look, it's a range of shots here, Marlon. It's nice. The interviews are good. They're very interesting who they talk to. Look, there are ways of attacking this sort of story. And I just think you need to go a little bit more in depth. I mean, like what they are wearing, what they're holding. You could have done a piece to camera. You don't have to do it yourself because maybe it's not safe for you to do it. But just pick up a shield and a sword and have it in your hand when you're doing a piece to camera. Or, you know, wow, these are really quite heavy. I don't know how they do it. Whatever it might be, so that you just get a little bit more of a flavour of this story. And what the people who are fighting and fencing go through, what they wear to protect themselves. And that will help you out. A little bit more of a range of shots, the tighter shots, the close-ups, and interview as many people as you can. I know you've interviewed the winner, and that is good, but go around a load of people. Men and women. Yes, you've introduced the woman outside as well, but look, there are lots of people here who might say something. So even though you've interviewed him and you've interviewed her, what about him? He's got a medal or whatever. I just think it's worth discussing it because you never know what you might get from her, for example. So mix it up and just try and get a little bit more in it and vary it.
Now, most of us enjoy a glass of wine now and then, but how do you know what's the right one for the occasion? Well, the wine festival has all the information you need. I decided to taste it for myself.
Bet you did.
Wine, food and more wine. That was the setting for the annual wine festival held at the Guildhall. This year featured over 100 different wines to sample and purchase, with masterclasses and experts on hand to help you find your favourite.
It's been pretty enjoyable, actually. Yeah, we've had a good chat with lots of different vendors, learned a bit about wine, and basically...
This year, the festival has seen an increase in local goods and produce.
Now, with the wine shot as well, it looked a bit soft. This looks a bit soft. I don't know, again, if it's in the compression, but it's not quite in focus.
The chocolates and even salami. This year's festival provided a true wine tasting experience, which organisers also believe ultimately helps the local community.
Yeah, I think, look, this is all chocolate. Does chocolate go with wine? Cocoa and red wine, is that... So I think, I'm hoping we're going to speak to a specialist or something, because that's not necessarily put together. Wine and cheese, yeah, obviously.
So the wine festival which...
Okay, Peter Richards, you're master of wine. Why are you not lined up here, and why are you in that third?
It's a very special thing.
I think that's a very brief opening shot before you cut away.
To believe it, really. It's a fantastic event. It's all about having fun around wine. Well,
Is that mute? I think it is.
Wine coexists alongside food.
Maybe that isn't. Okay, I'll give you that.
To be responsible, you generally want to have it with food. People are more interested in local. And that's a great thing.
Finally, the lights are on.
Okay, it's just a messy ending because it's just him and it doesn't explain what's going on. It's fine to go and do it. Whether you are allowed to partake and say, and just do a piece to camera with a bit, or, even just do it with a bit of cheese. You can, even though you're presenting, you can go out and do a piece of camera because we understand that you've been out earlier in the day or earlier in the week to do something. So that's not necessarily a problem. It just needs a bit. It needs more life in it. You've spoken to somebody who were fun. That was a good vox pop, and he's good, but it just needs more sophistication about. He tells you a lot about food is great to have with wine, but who are the local sellers? What benefits? What goes with what? Let's get into it rather than it just being, here's a load of wine and here's a load of food, which it felt like that.
And now, Winchester Christmas Market and Ice Rink is well underway. A market that attracts people from all over, named one of Britain's best. Larissa Patience has more.
Okay, that's a better link. We like that a lot.
All sorts of treats bring people to Winchester Christmas Market, like roast chestnuts and mulled wine.
People love it. They look forward to it. One guy did genuinely say, "You guys are the reason I look forward to Christmas."
Yeah, and
we like to think it's actually just the two of us because we are the star team members.
With Winchester looking jolly, there's plenty of inspiration for your own winter wonderland.
I just love the whole atmosphere, and it's in a lovely setting by the cathedral. I think it's a very good thing that you've got an ice rink there. That's nice to see. Yes.
Really deck the halls this Bless you. Getting everyone in the class.
Okay, I love the fact that you're doing your ice skating, Larissa. That's really nice. I'm just not sure, you know, there is anything different here. Yes, it's going on. Oh, it's good. It doesn't get, you know, where's the music, the feel, the whatever. I would shoot it. I'd be more than likely to shoot it at night or when it's dark, when it's got a bit of atmosphere. And I want smells. I want flavours, I want tastes, I want texture, I want colour. And I'm not sure I've got that. I've got, here's the market. You've got some really good grabs, I would admit that. But I'm not sure it's told me anything that I didn't already know. And basically this Christmas market's been going for X many years. And we rightly do a story on it every year. And this is no different, but has probably not got as much in. But what I do like is the fact that you've done a piece to camera at the end and tried to be a part of it, and it desperately needed a piece to camera.
That market can take the Grinch out of anyone. That's all for now. Thank
Nice,
you
nice line, well done.
very much for watching.
Good, well done, well read. Look, it's actually a pretty good mix of stories. I mean, I think I've been through it in quite a bit of detail about what needs to be looked at and what needs to be done, and I don't want to waffle anymore. I would have actually enjoyed watching that as a programme because it had a lot of different stories in it, and what are we looking at? 10 stories, I think, so 10, sort of 9 packages, maybe 10 packages, which is, you know, very good. Very good indeed that you're all getting a go and you've all got a story of importance. And I think, you know, probably 9 out of 10 are actually worthy of inclusion in there. So well done. And I look forward, I think you probably got one more next week, I hope so. Anyway, well done for this and we will speak soon.